For this assessment task, I interviewed Catherine, who is the 4-year-old kindergarten teacher that I work with at a long daycare centre. She's been a fantastic mentor to me this year, so I wanted to learn more about her teaching background and her thoughts on the role of an early childhood teacher. To learn more about her background, my first question to her was, what was your motivation for becoming a teacher? Catherine described her journey to becoming a teacher, from working as a nanny to an after-school program, then an educator at an early learning centre. She then took the leap into teaching. She explained that she didn't feel particularly ready, but was offered the teaching position and had to figure it out as she went along. She credited her former colleagues for encouraging and supporting her as she stepped into her first teaching role, and described how she took many positives and negatives from various experiences throughout her career. I found Catherine's journey to teaching very interesting, as it shares similarities to mine, and makes me reflect on the feelings of uneasiness I experience when thinking about taking the jump from educator to teacher. I'm inspired by her courage to take that step when she wasn't feeling ready, and will take her advice of leaning on those around me, and that everything that happens when I make that step will be a learning experience that I can use to grow. The next question I asked Catherine was, how have you built on your leadership skills to become a confident leader? Catherine described her leadership skills as something she's constantly building on and learning, as it's something that doesn't come naturally to her. She says that she engages in lots of professional development to help her build on her leadership skills, as well as seeking out advice and guidance from her mentors, other teachers, and educational leaders to become a better leader. Being a confident leader is also something that I would like to work on. I was surprised to hear that Catherine engages in lots of professional development to help build on her leadership skills, as she seems to lead the kinder children so naturally. This reminded me that as teachers we're constantly building on our skills. McArdle et al. States that becoming a teacher is becoming a lifelong learner, 2015, page 63, and that dominant views of teaching practices will continue to shift over time, requiring us as teachers to be constantly reflecting and reviewing on our own practices. Next, I asked Catherine, what are the priority areas for you as a teacher? Straight away, Catherine said the most important thing for her as a teacher is relationships with the children. She believes that having the basis of strong relationships and understanding of each other in the classroom is fundamental to her teaching practices. I absolutely agree with Catherine in that relationships with children is a huge priority for me as well, when I consider my own teaching philosophy, as I believe it underpins everything else that we will do as teachers and builds a strong foundation for children's learning in early childhood. ECE6014 also highlights the importance of relationships with children through Quality Area 5, stating that research shows relationships are central to children developing acceptance, self-esteem, and higher functioning thinking skills that contribute to positive learning and life outcomes, 2016. I then asked Catherine, how do you prioritise your time? Catherine was honest about this, being something she needed to work on, as she's still testing out different ways of planning that works for her, such as writing lists and using a calendar. She admitted that having children with challenging behaviours in the class also makes it hard to prioritise her time. I agree with Catherine in that challenging behaviours can make it difficult to prioritise other tasks. However, I believe that when you're working in a team, you should be able to find support from other educators to help manage these tasks. I think that for my future teaching practice, I would want to emphasise teamwork and supporting each other, as I believe it's best practice. This is supported by the Early Years Learning Framework, which highlights that collaborative leadership and teamwork are built on a sense of shared responsibility and professional accountability for children's learning, development and wellbeing. Australian Government Department of Education, 2022. I then asked Catherine, how do you advocate for children and for yourself? Catherine admits she is not great at advocating for herself, but does believe strongly about advocating for the rights of children. Catherine wants the children to understand their rights and does this by having conversations about the conventions of the rights of the child and encouraging the children to be active participants in their learning. Catherine's insights on the rights of the child have definitely influenced my future practice by making me understand how important it is for children to have a say in things that affect them, especially their learning. It made me realise that the voice of the child and their autonomy is something that we should always be encouraging. The final question I asked Catherine was, what is your image of the teacher and how has it evolved? Catherine explains that her views and philosophies have evolved throughout her career. She takes her image of the teacher from the Reggio Emilia philosophy, describing the teacher as a co-constructor of learning who is there to build knowledge, and learn alongside the children. Her teaching philosophy is also centred around Reggio Emilia and focuses on the rights and image of the child, the environment as the third teacher, and promoting diversity and inclusion. This question made me reflect on my image of the teacher and my teaching philosophy, and I realised it's heavily centred on the Reggio Emilia philosophy as well. The teaching practices I value most include respecting the child's voice, providing an engaging learning environment, viewing children as capable and competent, collaborating and building strong relationships with children and families, and following children's strengths and interests. I also understand that, as Catherine said, my teaching philosophy and practices will evolve and change as I learn, grow, and gain new experiences as a teacher.